In this video, we are going to discuss about the rotation theorem. This theorem is also called Coney's method. Name is not important, we have to understand the method first. On a complex plane, as I have discussed in the previous video, that any point on the complex plane can be treated as the position vector of that points. Let me say 2 points, say A and B, associated with the complex numbers say Z1 and Z2. If I join it from the origin, so we are going to get two vectors. One is OA, which is Z1. Another one is OB, which is Z2. Is it clear? Now, if argument of Z1 is θ1, that is, this angle is θ1, and argument of Z2 is θ2, that is, this angle is θ2, then θ2 minus θ1, that is, argument of Z2 minus argument of Z1, θ2 minus θ1 will give you this angle. That is, the angle between these two vectors is nothing but θ2 minus θ1. Let me denote it by theta. So what is theta? Theta is nothing but the angle between these two vectors OA and OB. Okay. Now from the Euler's form, we know that Z1 can be written as mod of Z1 into e to the power iota θ1. Yes or no? This is the Euler's form. And for the complex number Z2, it will be Z2 equals to mod of Z2 e to the power iota θ2. Tell me yes or no? Now, if I divide the corresponding sides, we are going to have Z2 by Z1 is mod of Z2 by mod of Z1 e to the power iota θ2 by e to the power iota θ1. That gives us e to the power iota θ2 minus θ1. Yes or no? Now θ2 minus θ1 is nothing but theta. Therefore, Z2 minus Z1 comes to mod of Z2 by mod of Z1 e to the power iota theta. Is it clear or not? Now observe one thing. This theta is because, angle is a vector quantity. It's a dimensionless vector quantity. Always remember, angle is a vector quantity. It's not a scalar one. So it has a direction. As we measured angle in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction, right? It has an magnitude as well as it has a direction. Now, this theta, if you observe, you will find that I have taken it positive. As I told you before that we take angle to be positive when we measure the angle in anti-clockwise direction. Therefore, we have measured this angle in this way. That is why we are getting this theta as positive. Otherwise, we would have got it negative. Is it clear now? So, we got from the rotation theorem that Z2 by Z1 is nothing but mod of Z2 by mod of Z1 into e to the power iota theta, where theta is the angle between these two vectors, measured in anti-clockwise direction. Now, as we all know, vectors can move along a plane anywhere if its direction and magnitude are not changed. So, the vector OA can move anywhere on the plane if its direction and magnitude remain same. So what I am doing now is, I am moving OA vector. Let us say we are moving OA vector here. Now the position vector of this point, let us say like this is C, which is Z3. This is say D, which is say Z4. And we are moving OB vector at this point. Let us say this point is E and the position vector is Z5. Is it clear? Is it clear? Now we have moved OA vector in this position without changing its direction and magnitude, and we have moved OB vector in this direction at this point, that is DE, okay, without changing its magnitude and direction. Again, the angle between them will be same as theta. Tell me yes or no. Because you have not changed its direction and magnitude, therefore, argument of Z3 minus Z4 is still your theta 1, and argument of Z5 minus Z4 is your theta 2. Is it clear? Therefore, the angle between them is theta. Therefore, we can write argument of Z5 minus Z4 minus argument of Z3 minus Z4 is theta 2 minus theta 1, which is nothing but your theta. Now here also, if I apply Euler's form, then for this vector we can write Z3 minus Z4 is modulus of Z3 minus Z4 e to the power iota theta 1, and Z5 minus Z4, this vector, is modulus Z5 minus Z4 e to the power iota theta 2. Is it clear? Now if we divide these two, what we are going to have? We will have Z5 minus Z4 by Z3 minus Z4, that gives us modulus of Z5 minus Z4 divided by modulus of Z3 minus Z4 e to the power iota theta 2 by theta 1, that gives us theta 2 minus theta 1. Is it clear? Now again, theta 2 minus theta 1 is theta. Therefore, the ultimate form comes to Z5 minus Z4 by Z3 minus Z4 equals to mod of Z5 minus Z4 divided by mod of Z3 minus Z4 e to the power iota theta. Is it clear? Is this clear? So this is what is called your rotation theorem. Now one thing you have to understand here very clearly, that whenever theta is, let us take this example only, whenever theta is there, theta means the angle between these two vectors measured in anti-clockwise direction. Now how to remember when to take this theta to be positive and negative? Always remember, we have started from this vector. That is, the arrow started from this vector and headed towards this vector. See this expression? You can see, you will remember in this way that this theta will be positive when it has started from the denominator and it has ended in the numerator. In that way, if you remember, you can understand whether this theta will be positive or negative. Remember one thing, whenever the angle is measured starting from the denominator and ending at numerator, this theta is always positive. Otherwise, if we start from the numerator and ends in the denominator, then this theta will be negative. If you can remember that way, it will be pretty simple for us to apply Connie's method at ease. Is it clear? Now let me just extend this same topic little more. See, on this complex plane, let us say this point is Z1, this is Z2, and this is Z3. Look at very carefully. So, these are the two vectors, and the angle between them measured in anti-clockwise direction is theta. Therefore, we can say from the rotation theorem that Z3 minus Z1 divided by Z2 minus Z1 is equals to mod of Z3 minus Z1 by mod of Z2 minus Z1 e to the power iota theta. Am I correct? Theta is considered to be positive. Why? Because we have started from Z2 minus Z1 and headed towards the numerator, that is Z3 minus Z1. Is it clear? Now, what is theta? Theta is basically the angle between Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1. Tell me yes or no. This is the angle between these two vectors, which can also be written as argument of Z3 minus Z1 minus argument of Z2 minus Z1. That exactly we have done. Argument of Z3 minus Z1, that is, if I produce this is the argument, this angle is the argument, and if we produce this then this angle, if this angle is say, let us say theta 1. Let us say this is theta 2. And let me say this is theta 1. Is it clear? Now, if we produce this one, what is the angle between this? The angle between them of these two vectors is nothing but from this triangle, what you can say, this is the exterior angle. So this theta 2 will be, if this angle is theta, it is theta plus theta 1. So theta is what? Theta 2 minus theta 1. Yes or no? So argument of Z3 minus Z1 is basically theta 2 minus theta 1. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is it clear? So theta is basically argument of Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1. Is this clear? Now suppose if theta is plus minus pi by 2. Suppose this angle is pi by 2. Whether plus or minus, I don't know. Okay? Because we can measure the angle in clockwise or in the anti-clockwise direction. Doesn't matter. But the angle between them is pi by 2. So in that case, what you will say? We know that when theta, that is the argument, is pi by 2 or minus pi by 2, then it is lying on the y-axis. I mean, the point is lying on the y-axis. Hence, we will say that Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1 is purely imaginary. Tell me yes or no. Is purely imaginary. Okay. Now, suppose if I say that this theta, which is your argument of Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1, is either 0 or pi. We are talking about the principal range. Then what happens? Then the angle between them, the angle between these two vectors is coming to either 0 or pi. That is, this vector coincides with this vector. Yes or no? So, as theta is coming to 0 or pi, that is, it is lying on the, the point will be lying on the x-axis, and any point which is on the x-axis on a complex plane is treated to be purely real. Yes or no? Therefore, we will say in this case that Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1, this will be purely real. This is purely real. Is it clear or not? Have you understood this? This is a very important conception. This will be needed in complex geometry when we will do it. Now, there is a very important point also. Just a little derivation. You see, we have seen, suppose this is Z1, this is again Z2, and the angle between them is theta. Now, let us say this vector, that is, let me just give a name. This is say A and this is say B. The vector OA, it revolves in the anti-clockwise direction. We are trying to say the same fact as we have discussed right now in some other way. What I want to say is the vector OA is moving in the anti-clockwise direction and taking the position OB. That is, now OA vector is nothing but OB vector. Is it clear? It is starting from here and moving an angle in anti-clockwise direction, moving an angle theta and coming to a new position, say OB. That is, the new position of the point A is now B. Okay. In this case, your length of OA is same as your length of OB. Okay. In that case, what happens? Let me see. It's a very interesting fact. We have already done that Z2 by Z1, if I apply Corny's method or rotation theorem, we are getting mod of Z2 by mod of Z1 e to the power iota theta. Okay. So your Z2 by Z1 gives us only e to the power iota theta. Why? Because mod of Z2 is same as mod of Z1. That is, their length are same. So Z2 can be written as what? Z1 e to the power iota theta. Tell me yes or no. Now suppose this angle is pi by 2. Let us say the angle of revolution is say pi by 2 in anti-clockwise direction. In that case, what happens? In that case, Your Z2 can be written as Z1 e to the power iota pi by 2. And e to the power iota pi by 2 is nothing but cos pi by 2 plus iota sin pi by 2. Again, cos pi by 2 is 0 and sin pi by 2 is 1. So we are getting Z2 is nothing but iota Z1. Tell me yes or no. It interprets that the new position Z2 can be obtained by simply multiplying iota with Z1. Is it clear? This is a very, very important derivation. Okay. So whenever any vector is multiplied with iota, always remember, any complex number, when multiplied with iota, it always revolves 90 degree in anti-clockwise direction and gets its new position. And the new position will be iota into its initial position. Yes or no? As it is here. What is its new position? Its new position is iota into its previous position. Is it clear? So make a note of this. It's a very, very important point. Whenever any complex number is multiplied with iota, it revolves in anti-clockwise direction by 90 degree and takes its new position. Is it clear? Okay. Now let us move for some problems based on this. See this problem. A man walks a distance of 3 units from the origin towards the northeast direction, north 45 degree east. Let me just draw the diagram from the very beginning of the sum. So a man walks off 3 units from origin towards northeast. This is north, south, east and west. This is our origin. So now a man walks a distance of 3 units from the origin towards northeast and north 45 degree east. Means what? It is making an angle 45 degree with the east direction. That is in this case with the x-axis. So this length is 3 units. Okay. So now the man comes here. Let us denote this thing that this point is say A. This is the first position of the man. Okay. Now what will be the position vector of the point A? We know from the Euler's theorem that it will be 3 e to the power iota theta. Yes or no? We know that any vector from the Euler's form can be written as r e to the power iota theta, where r is the modulus and theta is the argument of that complex number. In this case, what happened? This is the length 3 and making an angle 45 degree with the x-axis. Therefore, its argument is pi by 4. Hence, this position will be nothing but 3 e to the power iota pi by 4. Yes or no? Tell me. Okay, now let us read the second part of this question. From there, he walks a distance of 4 units toward the northwest. Northwest is this direction, right? Making an angle 45 degree with west. So, from this point, he moves towards northwest of 4 units, making an angle 45 degree, that is pi by 4 with the west direction. Is it clear? That exactly what it means. To reach a point P. So this point is P. Is it clear? Now, look at carefully. This angle is pi by 4. That is 45 degree. Therefore, this angle is also pi by 4. And this angle is pi by 4. They have already given. So this whole angle is 90 degree. Is it clear? Now let us assume, now we have to find out the position of point P on the Argand plane. That is, we have to find out the position vector of point P. Let us denote the point P by the vector Z. Okay. So now let us apply Corny's method at the point A. Look it carefully. This angle is 90 degree if it is measured in anti-clockwise direction. So the arrow will be headed towards the vector OA. So now we can say that what is our AP vector? It is z minus 3 e to the power iota pi by 4. And what is our AO vector? This is position vector of O minus position vector of A, that is 3 e to the power iota pi by 4. Is it clear?
One thing we must remember when applying Connie's method or rotation theorem about a point, that the angle between the vectors that we are talking about must be co-initial, so that the vector should emanate from our point. Is it clear? Then only we can apply Connie's method to that point. Otherwise not. Remember it.
So that is why I have taken the direction of this vector in this direction instead of this direction. Okay? I have taken AO, not OA. Be careful about it. Okay, now, if I apply Connie's method at the point A, then what we are going to have? So it will be AO vector by AP vector equals to mod of AO vector by mod of AP vector e to the power iota pi by 2. Tell me yes or no. So we are getting minus 3 e to the power iota pi by 4 divided by z minus 3 e to the power iota pi by 4, which is equals to mod of AO is nothing but 3 units. Mod of AP is nothing but 4 units, e to the power iota pi by 2, which is nothing but 3 by 4 iota only. Because e to the power iota pi by 2 is cos pi by 2 plus iota sin pi by 2. Cos pi by 2 is 0 and sin pi by 2 is 1. So that gives us only iota. So what you are getting basically? Z minus 3 e to the power iota pi by 4 equals to 4 by 3 iota minus 3 e to the power iota pi by 4. Yes or no? Tell me. Yes or no? So this can also be written as 4 iota by 3 iota square minus 3 e to the power iota pi by 4. So that gives us iota square is minus 1. That minus and this minus will give you plus. 3 goes off. So it is only 4 iota e to the power iota pi by 4. Correct? Therefore, Z equals to 3 e to the power iota pi by 4 plus 4 iota e to the power iota pi by 4. So let me take e to the power iota pi by 4 common. So we are left with 3 plus 4 iota e to the power iota pi by 4. Is it clear? So that is the position of the point P on the Argand plane. Hence, our option D is correct. Have you understood it? Have you understood the application of rotation theorem? Okay, let me take another problem of this kind. See this problem. A particle P starts from the point Z0, which is 1 plus 2 iota. I will read the question and simultaneously I will draw it on the Argand plane. So the particle starts from the point Z0. This is your Z0. The point is 1, 2, correct? It moves first horizontally away from the origin by 5 units. So it moves 5 units horizontally and it comes to this point, say. Okay. Now, this point, what is the coordinate of this point? This point will be, this distance is 5 units. So this point is 6, 2. Okay. And then vertically away from the origin by 3 units to reach a point Z1. So it moves vertically 3 units. So this distance is 3 units and reach a point Z1. So what is the coordinate of Z1 on an Argand plane? It is 6, 5. Yes or no? Okay. So the position vector of Z1 is basically 6 plus 5 iota. Is it clear? From Z1, the particle moves root 2 units in the direction of the vector I plus j. Now, what is the direction of I plus j? You have to understand that. In the vector conception, we know that the direction cosine of this vector is 1 by root 2 and 1 by root 2. That is, with the x-axis, cosine of that angle is 1 by root 2. And with the y-axis, the cosine of that angle is 1 by root 2. This is called your direction cosines. So cos theta, if it is 1 by root 2, then we can say that theta is nothing but pi by 4. That is, from this point, the particle is moving in the direction of I plus j, means it is making an angle 45 degree with the axis parallel to x-axis. Is it clear? So this angle is pi by 4. Is it clear or not? So it moves root 2 units along this direction to reach at this point. Now my question is, what about this point? What will be the coordinate of this point or the position vector of this point? Let me denote this point as Z2. Then what will be the position vector of Z2? Look it very carefully. From the Euler's theorem, we can say that Z2 minus Z1 is mod of Z2 minus Z1 e to the power iota theta. In this case, it is pi by 4. So Z2 minus Z1 is nothing but mod of Z2 minus Z1, that is the distance between Z1 and Z2, which is nothing but root 2. So it is root 2 e to the power iota pi by 4. So Z2 gives you what? Z2 is nothing but Z1 plus root 2 e to the power iota pi by 4. What about your Z1? Z1 is nothing but 6 plus 5 iota plus root 2 e to the power iota pi by 4. And that is the position of the complex number Z2 on the Argand plane. Is it clear? Now let me just simplify this one a little bit. So it's 6 plus 5 iota plus root 2 cos pi by 4, that is 1 by root 2 plus iota sine pi by 4 is 1 by root 2. So it is coming to 6 plus 5 iota plus 1 plus iota. If I open the bracket, we are going to have 7 plus 6 iota. And that is the position vector of the point Z2. Let me write it here. It is 7 plus 6 iota. Is it clear? Now what happens? Please see. Now they say, after reaching the point Z2, it moves an angle of pi by 2 in anti-clockwise direction on a circle with center at origin to reach a point Z2. Oh my God, Z2 has already been taken over here. Let me just denote this thing by Z3, because I have already taken Z2. Let me denote this thing by Z3. So the point Z3 is required. So what happened? After reaching this point is now moving in anti-clockwise direction to this point is Z3. Okay? Don't be confused. This is Z3.
The required point is Z2. It's not Z3. Z3 has already been denoted here. The position vector of Z3 is 7 plus 6 iota. Now we have to find out the new position of Z3, which is Z2, which is actually given in the question. Z3 is the position whose position vector is 7 plus 6 iota. And Z2 is the new position of Z3 after revolving 90 degree along the arc of a circle whose center is at the origin. Is it clear?
Z3. Okay. Now, this point reaches a point Z2 like this. Say this point is Z2. Okay. Now, how it moved? It moved in the anti-clockwise direction on a circle with center as at the origin. Means keeping this thing as a radius, the particle is moving in anti-clockwise direction to reach at this point, and this angle is pi by 2. Have you understood this or not? From this point, it is moving along the arc of a circle whose center is at the origin and moving and coming to a point Z2 where it has made an angle pi by 2 at the origin. Is it clear or not? Now we have to find out the coordinate of Z2 or the position vector of Z2. We know that, as I told you before, that Z2 by Z1, how I told you, what was the theory? Like, if this is Z1 and this is Z2, and if the angle between them is pi by 2, then what you used to do? By applying the Coni's method, we will have this length and this length the same. Then what is the formula from the Coni's method? Z2 by Z1 equals to mod of z2 by mod of z1 e to the power iota pi by 2. Since these two lengths are same, so it will go off. So it is cos pi by 2 plus iota sine pi by 2. So that gives us only iota, right? So from here we can say that z2 is nothing but iota z1. That exactly what I taught you, that whenever a complex number is multiplied with iota, position vector of the new point of that complex number, when it moves in the anti-clockwise direction by pi by 2, that is 90 degree. What we do, simply initial position when multiplied with iota gives you that new position. Is it clear? Now we got 7 plus 6 iota is basically the position of Z3. Now we are moving along the circle, that is this length and this length are same. They are the radius of the same circle and the point reaches to point Z2. Therefore, the position vector of Z2 will be calculated like what? The position vector of Z2 will be nothing but iota Z3. That is, the position vector of Z2 will be iota. And what is Z3? The position vector of Z3 is 7 plus 6 iota. Therefore, we are getting what? 7 iota minus 6, because iota square is minus 1. Therefore, the position vector of the new position Z2 on the complex plane will be minus 6 plus 7 iota. Is it clear or not? Hence, your option D is correct in this case. Is this problem clear to you? Absolutely. Please try this problem again by yourself without looking the solution. Then only the whole fact will be clear to you. If you face any problem, don't forget to comment in the comment section so that I can see and I can reply and I can give you the right solution for that. It's okay. Let us move for some other problems. Let us consider an equilateral triangle whose three vertices are, let us say Z1, Z2 and Z3. Okay. Now we will find the relationship between Z1, Z2, Z3. Again, I am telling you, ABC is an equilateral triangle, means all these angles are 60 degrees, right? Now you choose any point here. Let me choose this point. And we will apply the rotation theorem at this point. So the angle measured in the anti-clockwise direction is this way. Therefore, from the rotation theorem, we can say that BA vector by BC vector is equals to mod of BA vector by mod of BC vector e to the power iota pi by 3. Am I correct or not? This angle has been measured in anti-clockwise direction. So we have applied our rotation theorem at point B. So we are having basically BA vector means position vector of A minus position vector of B divided by, for BC, position vector of C minus position vector of B, which is equals to modulus of BA vector and modulus of BC vector. They are same because it's an equilateral triangle. All sides are equal. So this 2 will go off. It is e to the power iota pi by 3. Am I correct? This is, we have applied the rotation theorem at point B. Now let us apply rotation theorem at point C. You can choose A also. Doesn't matter. You will get the same result. So at point C, in anti-clockwise direction, if I measure the angle, then this will be in this direction, right? So at point P, what you will say? CB vector by CA vector equals to mod of CB vector by mod of CA vector into e to the power iota pi by 3. Am I correct or not? CB vector is Z2 minus Z3 by CA vector is Z1 minus Z3, which is equals to, again this 2 will go off because it's an equilateral triangle and these two sides are equal. E to the power iota pi by 3. Am I correct? This I have applied the rotation theorem at point C. Now, since 2 are equals to e to the power iota pi by 3, so I can equate this to, so I can say that Z1 minus Z2 by Z3 minus Z2, this one, will be equals to Z2 minus Z3 by Z1 minus Z3. Am I correct or not? Let me cross multiply. So Z1 minus Z2 into Z1 minus Z3 equals to, if I take a minus common, it will be Z3 minus Z2 whole square, right? Let me multiply and open the brackets. So we are having Z1 square minus Z2 Z1 minus Z1 Z3 plus Z2 Z3. And in the right hand side we are getting Z3 square plus Z2 square minus 2 Z3 Z2. Okay. Now let me open the brackets. Okay, let me take this 3 in the right hand side and this 2 in the left hand side. So we are having what? Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square equals to Z1 Z2 plus, there is Z2 Z3, 2 times Z2 Z3 minus Z2 Z3, that will give you only Z2 Z3 plus Z3 Z1. Is it clear or not? So this is the relation which exists in an equilateral triangle whose 3 vertices are Z1, Z2 and Z3. So what is the relation? It is Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square is always equals to Z1 Z2 plus Z2 Z3 plus Z3 Z1. Very, very important point to be remembered. Now let us say that the centroid of this equilateral triangle be at the point whose position vector is set Z0 of this equilateral triangle ABC. Now the 3 vertices are Z1, Z2, Z3. Therefore, the centroid Z0 will be Z1 plus Z2 plus Z3 divided by 3. Tell me yes or no. Okay. Now let me cross multiply and square both sides. So what we are having? 9Z0 square is Z1 plus Z2 plus Z3 whole square. So if I open the bracket in the right hand side, what we are going to have? Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square plus 2 times Z1 Z2 plus Z2 Z3 plus Z3 Z1, right? Now we have, since it's an equilateral triangle, so in place of Z1 Z2 plus Z2 Z3 plus Z3 Z1, in place of this, I can replace it with Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square. So we are having 9Z0 square is 3 times Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square, right? Because Z1 Z2 plus Z2 Z3 plus Z3 Z1 has been replaced by Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square. So in the right hand side, we are getting 3 times Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square. So that implies 3 times Z0 square is Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square. And that also, if possible, we will remember. What is Z0? Z0 is the centroid of the triangle of an equilateral triangle whose 3 vertices are Z1, Z2, Z3. And the relation which exists is 3Z0 square equals to Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square. So these 2 results are very, very important. If possible, please remember it. Okay. Now let us move for another problem. Say this question. Let Z1 and Z2 be the 2 roots of the equation Z square plus Px plus Q equals to 0, where P and Q are complex numbers. Since Z1 and Z2 are the 2 roots of this equation, so we can write Z1 plus Z2 is minus P and Z1 Z2 is Q. The sum of 2 roots and the product of two roots. Okay, now they have said let A and B represent Z1 and Z2 respectively on a complex plane. So this is Z1 and this is say Z2. This point is B, this point is A. Okay. Now they have said that the angle AOB is alpha. This is the origin O. So angle AOB is alpha. Let me take it in the clockwise, anti-clockwise direction. So this angle is alpha. And they have said that OA equals to OB. That is the length of OA and length of OB. They are same. That is modulus of Z1 is same as modulus of Z2. Is it clear? Now we have to prove whatever is given to us. Now, let me apply rotation theorem at point O, that is at origin. So in that case, what we will write? Z2 minus 0 by Z1 minus 0 equals to mod of Z2 by mod of Z1 e to the power iota alpha. Tell me yes or no. Now modulus of Z1 and modulus of Z2, this will go off because they are equal. So we are having Z2 by Z1 is nothing but e to the power iota alpha. Is it clear? Now we have Z1 plus Z2 is minus P. That implies P square is Z1 plus Z2 whole square. So if I open the bracket, what we are going to have? Z1 square plus Z2 square plus 2 Z1 Z2. Right? Now let me divide both sides by Q. Q is nothing but Z1 Z2. So in the right hand side, you will write it like this way. Is it correct? Now, so this is P square by Q, Z1 by Z2 plus Z2 by Z1 plus 2. What is Z1 by Z2? You see, Z2 by Z1 is e to the power iota alpha. So this one will be e to the power minus iota alpha. Z2 by Z1 will be replaced by e to the power iota alpha. And this is 2. E to the power minus iota alpha will give you, from the Euler's form, cos alpha minus iota sin alpha. E to the power iota alpha will give you cos alpha plus iota sin alpha plus 2. So we are having 2 plus 2 cos alpha, right? Now if I take 2 common, so it will be 1 plus cos alpha, which is actually 2 cos square alpha by 2. Is it clear or not? So it is coming to 4 cos square alpha by 2. So which is equals to P square by Q. That implies P square is nothing but 4Q cos square alpha by 2. Yes or no? So proved. Are you understanding the application of rotational theorem? Absolutely. Okay, let us take another problem. See this question. Complex numbers Z1, Z2, Z3 are the vertices of a right angle isosceles triangle with right angle at C. Right angle at C. Let me draw it. This is C. Let us say this is A, this is B. And the complex number associated with those points are Z1, Z2, Z3 respectively. Now it is a right angle triangle, right angle at C, but isosceles triangle. That is, these two sides are equal. Okay. Since it's a right angle isosceles triangle, so we can say that this angle is pi by 4 and this angle is also pi by 4. Yes or no? Okay. Now, let me apply rotation theorem at point B. So what we are getting? BC vector by BA vector will be equals to modulus of BC vector by modulus of BA vector e to the power iota pi by 4. Is it clear? Now what is BC vector? Z3 minus Z2 divided by Z1 minus Z2, which is equals to mod of BC vector by mod of BA vector. We don't know the magnitude of those vectors. e to the power iota pi by 4 is there, correct? Now let me apply the same rotation theorem at point A. So what we are getting? AB vector by AC vector equals to modulus of AB vector by modulus of AC vector e to the power iota pi by 4. Correct or not? Which is AB vector can be written as Z2 minus Z1 by AC vector can be written as Z3 minus Z1, which is equals to mod of AB, mod of AC, e to the power iota pi by 4. Correct or not? Now, let me divide this two. So what we are going to have? Z3 by Z2, Z1 minus Z2 into Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1 equals to mod of BC by mod of BA into mod of AC by mod of AB, correct? E to the power iota pi by 4 will get cancelled. So we are basically having Z3 minus Z2 into Z3 minus Z1 by, if I take a minus common, so it will be Z1 minus Z2 whole square, right? And in the right hand side we are having, you see, your BC and AC, they are equal. So I can write this thing as BC vector whole square divided by AB and BA vector, they are same, so it will be AB vector square, right? BC vector, that is BC square by AB square, which is BC by AB whole square. Now what is BC by AB? It is nothing but your cos pi by 4, that is cos square pi by 4 in this case. So which is nothing but your half. Now if we cross multiply, what we are going to have? Z1 minus Z2 whole square equals to minus 2 times Z3 minus Z2 into Z3 minus Z1. If I take a minus common, so we are having 2 times Z1 minus Z3 into Z3 minus Z2. Is it clear? And that exactly what is given to be proved. Okay? That exactly what we have proved here. Is it fine? Now, I hope we people are little more confident in the application of rotation theorem in complex geometry. Is it clear or not? Okay, let me take another problem to make us more confident. If ABC represents the complex numbers Z1, Z2, Z3 respectively on the complex plane, and the angle at B and C are equals to pi by 2 minus alpha by 2, then prove that Z2 minus Z3 whole square equals to 4 times Z3 minus Z1 into Z1 minus Z2 sine square alpha by 2. That's it. Okay. So let me just draw the diagram. A, B and C. Angle B and angle C are respectively, they are equal and they are equals to pi by 2 minus alpha by 2. So this angle is also like that. Now, what about the angle A? Think about it. What about the angle A? Angle A will be 180 minus 2 times pi by 2 minus alpha by 2. So that gives us, which is alpha. So angle A is alpha. Okay. Now let us apply the rotation theorem at point A. So we have measured this angle in anti-clockwise direction. So it can be written as AC vector by AB vector equals to mod of AC vector by mod of AB vector e to the power iota alpha. Is it clear? Now, since these two angles are equal, that is B and C are equal, so we can say that it is an isosceles triangle. Okay, so AC and AB, the length of AC and AB are equal, so I can cancel this too. AC vector can be written as, these are the complex numbers Z1, Z2, Z3 respectively. Therefore, AC vector is Z3 minus Z1 by AB vector is Z2 minus Z1 equals to e to the power iota alpha, which is cos alpha plus iota sin alpha. Okay. Now, we have to prove this. Okay. Now, in the proof part, we can easily see that in the left hand side, we are having Z2 minus Z3. So, to get Z2 minus Z3 from this equation, what I am doing is, I am subtracting 1 from both sides. So, we are having So, if I simplify the left hand side, we are going to have Z3 minus Z2 by Z2 minus Z1, which is equals to iota sin alpha minus 1 minus cos alpha, right? Sin alpha can be written as 2 sin alpha by 2 cos alpha by 2, and 1 minus cos alpha can be written as 2 sin square alpha by 2. Okay. So now let me take minus 2 sin alpha by 2 common. So we are having sin alpha by 2 minus iota cos alpha by 2. Okay. If I take an iota common, so this one will be 1 by iota sin alpha by 2 minus cos alpha by 2 minus 2 iota sin alpha by 2. 1 by iota can be written as iota by iota square sin alpha by 2 minus cos alpha by 2. Iota square is minus 1, so we are having minus sine minus iota sine alpha by 2 minus cos alpha by 2. And let me take a minus common, so we are having 2 iota sine alpha by 2 cos alpha by 2 plus iota sine alpha by 2. Is it clear? Now let me square both sides. So this is basically 4 iota square sine square alpha by 2 cos alpha by 2 plus iota sine alpha by 2 whole square. Now from De Moivre's theorem we can write iota square is minus 1. So this is cos alpha plus iota sine alpha, right? We have applied De Moivre's theorem here. Now cos alpha plus iota sine alpha can be replaced by Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1. So I'm simply writing that Z3 minus Z1 by Z2 minus Z1. Now if I take a minus common, so we are having 4 sine square alpha by 2 Z3 minus Z1 by Z1 minus Z2, correct? So this thing will become Z3 minus Z2 whole square equals to Z2 minus Z1 whole square will go in the right hand side and one part will get cancelled. So we are left with 4 sine square alpha by 2 Z3 minus Z1 into Z1 minus Z2. Is it clear or not? Tell me. Hence, proved. Have you understood the problem? Absolutely. Okay. In lieu to the conception of the centroid of an equilateral triangle, let us try this sum. Suppose there is a hexagon. A regular hexagon is there. Let us name the vertices and let the vertices be Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, Z5 and Z6. Now if Z0 is the circumcenter of this regular hexagon, then prove that sigma R equals to 1 to 6 Z square is equals to 6Z0 square. That's the question. We have to prove this. Okay. Now let me just join these vertices. So we are basically getting an equilateral triangle. FBD is an equilateral triangle. Let me join A, E and C. Again, this is also an equilateral triangle. Now, the circumcircle of this regular hexagon will also be a circumcircle of the triangle FBD and AEC. Therefore, the circumcenter of those two equilateral triangles will coincide with the circumcenter of this regular hexagon. Now, we all know that circumcenter, centroid, they are all the same point for an equilateral triangle. Therefore, this point, which is the centroid of the triangle BFD, is same as the centroid of the triangle AEC, is same as the circumcenter of the regular hexagon ABCDEF. Is it clear? Now, if we consider the triangle BFD, we can say that 3Z0 square is equal to, because this point is Z0, right? 3Z0 square equals to Z2 square plus Z6 square plus Z4 square. Right now we have proved this. Similarly, if we take the triangle AEC, in that case also 3Z0 square will be equals to Z1 square plus Z5 square plus Z3 square. Tell me yes or no. Now if I add the corresponding sides, we are going to have 6Z0 square equals to Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square. Tell me yes or no, which can also be written as sigma R starts from 1 to 6 Z square. Is it clear? This is how we can prove this kind of problem if we can remember the centroid of any equilateral triangle is 3Z0 square equals to Z1 square plus Z2 square plus Z3 square. This little formula where Z1, Z2, Z3 are the three vertices of that equilateral triangle. Is it clear to all of us? Okay.
So that's all for this video. In the next video, I will come with more exciting topic on this chapter. Till then, goodbye and take care.